Welcome to Getting Personal, a monthly podcast diving deep into the stories of the heartbeat of HR. Brought to you by Compt, a global lifestyle benefits platform where companies empower employees with benefits and rewards they'll use and appreciate, whoever and wherever they are in life.
Today I have with me Paul Lavoie, Chief Manufacturing Officer of Connecticut. Paul, thank you for being here today.
Hi, Lauren. It's great to be here. Thank you.
So, you were appointed to this position in 2022, correct?
That is correct. My position was created by the legislature, and the governor has the appointing authority. So I was appointed by Governor Ned Lamont in February of 2022.
I would love to hear the story of how a person with your experience, because I was scrolling through your LinkedIn with a background in sales, marketing, a little bit of HR, ends up in your current role, which, if I'm not mistaken, is also very unique.
So yes, it is very unique. Connecticut is the only state that has this role. It's the only state with a chief manufacturing officer that's part of the executive branch of government. So again, a very, very unique role. And you could not ever imagine the career path that I've had. Nobody could ever imagine that. If you sat back and when I was 20 years old, said this is what your career would look like, everybody would laugh. There's no way you could possibly imagine that. In that I've had actually 7 different careers. So I've worked in
Wow.
7 different industries. But for the last, and I started out, I started my career in the supermarket industry, and then I worked in, marketing and advertising. Then I worked in technology. Then I worked in financial services. Then I owned my own business. Then I bought a marketing agency, and then I went to work in manufacturing. And that was probably about 12 to 15 years ago. I started to work in manufacturing and started to lead some manufacturing companies. And it's one of those where wish I had stumbled across manufacturing earlier in my career, because it really has for me become really a true passion. And to be the chief manufacturing officer of the state of Connecticut, you had to run a manufacturing business in the state. So I
Mhm.
was the general manager of Carey Manufacturing, and we were known for 2 things. We were known for reshoring a product line from China back to the U.S. and for being happily and fully staffed in a very tough labor environment. And now as the chief manufacturing officer, I get to support all 4,800 manufacturers in the state of Connecticut.
What was it about manufacturing specifically that made you realize that this was your passion and you wanted to enter the role that you're in now?
Yeah, it's a couple of things. I think it's the first and foremost, it's the connection to making something, right? Very tactile, very, I used to, when I was at Carey Manufacturing, whenever, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd be like, I can't deal with this stuff at my desk anymore. I need to go on the shop floor and just go out on the shop floor and talk to people who are making our products and to see our products and to know the application of our products and how these products are being used. Everything in the world is made by somebody,
Hmm.
right? Everything that we have is made by somebody. And so when you think about that and you think about the really, really amazing people that work in manufacturing, it's really a great industry. And the second piece of that is that the manufacturing is a driver of the economy. For every job that we create in manufacturing, we create another 5 jobs in the economy. And what's interesting about manufacturing is that it's such an economic driver in that we're bringing dollars from other places into Connecticut. So, for example, when we make a Black Hawk helicopter, right, all that money that's coming in to purchase that helicopter comes in from outside of Connecticut and goes to work for the Connecticut economy. So it really grows our economy with manufacturing, especially when we export either to other states or even export globally from our manufacturing. We're bringing money in. A lot of businesses are recycling money locally,
Hmm.
right? So, you get your paycheck and you go to a restaurant or you pay for your lawyer or you do all of that kind of stuff. You're recycling money locally. What we're doing is bringing in money into the economy to help grow the economy. And so that gets me pretty excited about it too, is that it really, and the fact that Connecticut is just really so good at it. It's really good at manufacturing. It really is a strength of ours. So that's really what drives it is really that whole idea that it's really cool to see all the things that we make, but it's really cool to make things and to have that impact. And then it's just, the, Connecticut is the best place to be in manufacturing. And that gets me excited about it and passionate about it as well.
I really got a sense for your passion behind not just the industry, but the people powering it when I watched your recent keynote.
Mm.
And one of the things that you had mentioned during that was about the job market specifically for manufacturing. You had said that 2.1 million jobs may go unfilled nationally by 2030, but that won't be Connecticut's story. And in what you just said, I got a little bit of a glimpse of what Connecticut is doing differently. But I want to understand, like, what personal experiences shaped your conviction about that in particular.
Yeah, I think it's just understanding. So a big part of my job is going out and listening to my customers. I have 4,800 manufacturing customers, and it really is listening to what their challenges are and what their needs are. And then I also have to take a look at what are some global trends that are happening. What are things that are impacting our ability to be successful. And it really is this, kind of this data collection of just of understanding all of this data, and then being able to process it. And again, when the National Association of Manufacturers comes out and says, we have the ability to create 4 million new jobs in the manufacturing sector by 2030, of which 2.1 million will go unfilled. I mean, my immediate reaction is, that can't happen here. Like, I
Right.
can't let that happen in Connecticut. And so it really is in this role, my role is to support and grow the manufacturing sector. So when you see something like that, your immediate reaction should be, I can't let my customers suffer, right? I can't let that, I really can't let that happen. And so that really launched us into what we call Make It Here 2030, which is Connecticut's plan to full employment in the manufacturing sector by 2030. And so, and we're right now in the middle of executing the early phases of that plan, of just really understanding how we can support our manufacturers in such a way that they can increase throughput and efficiency and productivity. So, I mean, personally, it really comes from a customer service attitude, right? About how can I best serve my customers? What are their challenges, and how can I best serve them? And how can I make sure that I'm giving them what they need to be successful? I mean, I want our manufacturers to do two things. I want them to make amazing parts, and I want them to hire people and give them life-changing careers. And those two things is what my job is all about supporting. So again, you can see that's a passion for me, is to understand what my customers' needs are, understand what their challenges are, and then fix them, and fix them systemically over the long term. So.
You had mentioned that when you were in college, you didn't necessarily anticipate your various careers that you've had or that you would end up in manufacturing. Do you think that's true for a lot of the younger generations right now? Like, is um, entertaining younger and new talent going to be maybe more difficult than sustaining the workforce that you currently have? Because I understand people are aging out, retiring, but you got to backfill those somehow.
Yeah, Lauren, you're spot on. I mean, what we've done is, um, you know, a generation ago, we as in America decided that manufacturing was low wage work, right? It was low wage, not high tech at all, and it should be done in low wage countries. And so what we did was we sent all this work overseas to low wage countries, primarily China, to be able to have that work done. Now in Connecticut, what happened is a lot of work stayed because a lot of work is high tech, right? We
Hmm.
make helicopters, jet engines, and submarines. So it was high tech. So it stayed here. But and then what we did is we forgot to engage with young people about manufacturing careers or even careers in the trades. We took out those programs in our high schools, and we said, no, everybody should go to college, right? America should be the educated part of all of this, not the, not the working class, if you will. We should be the educated class. And for a generation, we forgot to teach kids about manufacturing. And in that time period, manufacturing changed, and it changed significantly. And now it is very high tech. It's very clean. It's very green. It's very, you go on a shop floor and it's great, meaningful work that is actually high paying work. And so, however, in doing that, all of our young people have lost the connection with manufacturing. They have no idea that everything is made. I mean, Lauren, we've raised an entire generation of young people who think things magically appear in an Amazon warehouse and then get delivered to their house. They have no
Mm-hmm.
idea that they're made. And so we have to go back and teach young people that somebody made everything that's in your life. The phone you're holding, somebody manufactured that, somebody designed that. And that's really cool work. And then what we've seen is when we introduce young people to manufacturing jobs, they get excited. And when we introduce their parents to manufacturing careers, the parents are like, oh my God, this is amazing. I had no idea. I had no idea. So we have to undo a generation of programming, and we need to get young people excited about careers in manufacturing. And we know that when we do, they respond, because they're very, very exciting things. And young people are looking for work with meaning, right? They're looking for work that has real meaning. When you can sit there and say, hey, this part is going on this medical device that is going to save thousands and thousands of lives, you're like, oh my God, I'm making a part that saves thousands and thousands of lives. This is meaningful work, and so making sure that they can have that connection is going to be very important. It is very important. And that's one of the things that we're working on.
I love that you mentioned meaningful work, because I think you're spot on in that there are younger generations, even myself, even my parents are now looking for more meaningful work as they understand what they want to do with the rest of their careers before they retire, and what kind of supportive environment they want to be in. Um, and that's the other piece, I think, of it. What does the culture look like? And you had mentioned to me before that uh, your insight on this is employees don't care until they know you care. So when did you realize this to be true? Was there a conversation that you had that stopped you in your tracks and you thought, geez, I have to show these people, like, you're not just doing meaningful work, but we're here to support you in that?
Yeah, I don't, I guess I don't necessarily know of a moment. I mean, it's really been always the way I've always led, in all of the jobs that I've had and things like that. It really is, um, allowing people to understand the value that they bring to the organization, but also understanding that people are inherently good, and they really want to do meaningful work, and they really want to contribute. Sometimes their behavior is not consistent with that. So it's correcting behavior, never while never trying to correct the person, has always been my leadership style. I mean, people have left. I've had people that have made serious mistakes, have come into my office to talk about it, have left and gone up to coworkers and said, God, I know I screwed up. I know I really screwed up, but why don't I feel bad? Like, I never want to feel this way again, but I don't feel bad. Like, I
Mm.
don't feel bad. And that is just letting people know that, hey, what you did, you really screwed up. And so that shows that you really care about them. And then I kind of, as that evolved, it just really evolves to understanding that, everybody has all these challenges in life that kind of prevent us from performing. And so when somebody is not performing, to really dig deep and to help understand what it is. And when you find out what it is and they find out that you care about them, it makes it easier to help deal with that. I'm just today I'm dealing with an issue today where I have a young woman that works for me. Her parents are in China, and she came to me and said, I need to go home before January 20th. I need to go home for a month because I don't think I'm going to be able to see my parents for 4 more years. And my response to her was, Yvonne, I'm so sorry, so sorry that you need to be faced with this right now. I really am sorry. I said, and whatever you need to be with your family, you'll be with your family. We'll take care of the work. Why wouldn't I do that? Right? Why
Right.
wouldn't I do that? Somebody else just might say there and say, hey, it's tough. You got work, you got a job to do, you got to work, and you got to do all that. But I know that by doing that, when Yvonne comes back, she's going to work 3 times as hard. She's going to be eternally grateful. And I truly do care. I really do care about people. And I think from a leadership perspective, you're right. Nobody cares about you until they know you care about them. And I think it's making sure that people know you care about them, and really demonstrating that is a key element of being a truly effective leader, especially today, and especially uh, with I would consider the younger generation, right? Maybe the baby boomer generation was, listen, I don't want you to care about me. I'm just going to come do my work, go home, leave me alone. I don't really want all that kind of stuff. But I think that the generations that we have in the workforce now truly want to. They really want to be seen, right? They really want to be seen, and they really want to be recognized, and they really want to know that somebody cares about them. And that's a big part of growing your culture. Growing your culture in your organization is, and again, if people know you care about them, they'll care a lot about you, and they'll care a lot about the work that you're doing for your customers as well. So
You know, it's I'm so glad that you shared that story because I think that is a great example of how you can foster a sense of loyalty in your people because you know that if they are struggling with something in their personal lives, they're likely not able to show up 100% at work. In whatever they're doing, like their minds are occupied, maybe they're tired because they haven't been sleeping well, and that impacts things. So to be able to give them the flexibility in that space then allows them to return when they're ready, and as you said, like be maybe even three times as productive. Um, I also agree that there probably was a time, and maybe still is for a lot of folks, where work is transactional. Like I just want to clock in, clock out, and that's it. But it's interesting that those moments, like the conversation that you had with Yvonne, might be a 5-minute conversation or so small or easy for you to say, yes, I can totally be here for you. But it is such a large and long lasting impact on that person's life. And then that also just solidifies your employer brand moving forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think today, and especially in the manufacturing sector, leaders need to be paying a special attention to culture. They need to be really paying special attention to the individuals that work for them. You know, it's it's really hard to recognize people as individuals, but weave them together as a high performing team.
Yeah.
Because as the leader of the team, you need to be incredibly flexible to deal with all of the different personalities, which I think, by the way, is the best part of the job, right? I mean, I love the fact that I have all these diverse personalities and people coming at me from all these different ways, and how much I appreciate that. But you have to actually appreciate that because at the end of the day, we have our core values and beliefs, and our for our team here are that we put the team first as number one. And that is making sure that we take care of each other, because unless we take care of each other, we can't take care of our customers. And by the way, that's number two, is we're customer centric, right? So we take care of the team first, and then we're customer centric, because if we put the customer first and didn't take care of the team, then one person's going to be overworked and a whole bunch of others aren't going to be. So by taking
Right.
care of the team, we have a real high performing team that really takes great care of our customers. So, and again, I think that really just comes back to how do you recognize people as individuals while building them together a really strong team that's very mission driven. And I think that's one of the key issues facing, I think, companies in general, but certainly from my perspective, the manufacturers today really need to understand that, because employee retention is should be job number one. Let's keep the people we have, because it's really hard to find people.
I think that a lot of the seeing people as individuals often falls on the middle managers or whoever like is they're directly reporting to. So it's interesting that you are also seeing this from your position. Um, what do you think it looks like for other people in leadership or in the C-suite to be able to see people as individuals? Like, what does that look like? Is it having one-on-one meetings with people? Is it just being visible in the workplace?
Yeah, I think it's so from a leadership perspective, it's all about walking the walk, right? It's all about modeling the right behavior as well. So I've set up systems with my team that let them know that our value of putting the team first is a very important value. And I'll just give you an idea of how, as a leader, you can do that. So I do have one-on-ones with all of my team members. My schedule is quite volatile in that I'm asked to speak a lot and to attend a lot of events. So sometimes those meetings get bumped because of those types of things that happen. But the deal I have with every one of my direct reports is that if they need me, they're to reach out to my assistant Cindy, and Cindy will schedule a meeting that day with them. And because Cindy knows where I am every minute of every day, and I spend a lot of time in the car, so she'll say, "Listen, Paul's in the car from 2 to 2:30. Call him then." Right.
Mhm.
And he'll take your call. And then she texts me saying, "Carmen's going to call you at 2 o'clock." I'm like, "Great. Okay." So they know, my team knows, if they need me, they can get me. Right. They
Right.
immediately know that if they need me, they can get me. The second thing that I've set up is that if they need me to sign something, they copy my assistant, and my assistant texts me and says, "At 9:07 a.m., Carla Ray sent you this document and it needs to be signed." And so when I stop and I have a chance to go to my email, I just go to 9:07 a.m., look at it, review it, and say approve for signature. Cindy has my signature. She signs it. She keeps it moving. So we get this speed of making sure that I'm modeling that kind of behavior for my team so that they can model that kind of behavior for their people and say, hey, listen, if, I'm always available, like Paul's always available, and we always move things quickly, like Paul moves things quickly, and to do all of that. And I know if I don't do that, no one else is going to do that. Right.
Right.
And so, again, anytime we implement anything new, I know that I have to be the most disciplined person in adopting that new technology, because if I'm not, then nobody else will. So, and that's hard. That's really, really hard. To say, like, for example, we're adopting a CRM system. I want everybody to use it. Well, guess what? I better use it. Because if I don't use it, then I have no right to tell everybody else to use it. I mean, I guess I do have the right, but it seems a little shallow for me to not do it and then tell everybody else to do it. And,
Right.
and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about learning it. I'm excited about using it and getting the benefits of it. So I think you need to walk the walk a little bit. And I also think you need to make it easy for people to be able to reach you and not be difficult to reach for your team, especially when I'm in a very public facing and very busy role that
Right.
puts me all across the state on any given day. I have no idea where I'm going. Like if you asked me where I was going next week, I would say I have no idea, and I would have to check my schedule and see where I'm going. I do know where I'm going today, which is really good. And I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going tomorrow, but I can always look at that. So, but again, that's just the nature of my work, right? Which,
Right.
I don't sit in an office for long periods of time where people can just pop in and talk. So, but I think you have to be accessible for your people, and you have to know that you're there to support them so that they can do their jobs better. And that's the only reason why I do it is anytime they need me, they need me because they're stuck and they need something moved along, then I'll need to move it along a little bit more quickly. So I think that's important from a leadership perspective of modeling that behavior and then being true to that and just letting people know that you're always there for them. There's just a way to do it. Right. I mean, I always tell
Right.
don't just call me directly because I'm in a meeting. Then I'm going to go call you back. And then, you're in a meeting. And then I'm going to try to call me back. And then I'm in a meeting. And then, just go to Cindy. She knows where I am every minute of every day. So it makes it really efficient.
I know that I am also thankful for Cindy because that's how I got you here.
I go wherever Cindy tells me to go. So just hope let's just hope she continues to like me and not send me to places, like I hope she doesn't send me to Russia with a big Target sign on me. So.
Right. So, in walking the walk and modeling that kind of behavior, what does that look like across Connecticut manufacturers, especially because I know everyone's always competing for talent and it's not just salary based anymore. You can't just throw more and more money at people and it'll make a difference because we know that culture is just as important. The appreciation and the visibility you're getting from leadership is just as important.
Yeah, I think, small to medium-sized manufacturers can't compete in some areas, right? It's really difficult for them to compete as it relates to salary with larger manufacturers. It's really hard to compete with benefits and other things like that. So I think you need to, so for a small to medium-sized manufacturer, when it comes to retention of your employees, I really think you need to look at kind of what's the kind of the price of admission, for example, as it relates to the things that you can do, like are you paying a fair wage and are you offering good benefits, right? You can't do a great wage and great benefits, but are you doing that? And then once you do that, I think you need to kick in on culture, right? I really think you need to kick in on culture and why it's such a great place to work and how you make it a great place to work and to have the flexibility to do things that maybe some of the larger companies can't do. Because what will happen is invariably people will think the grass is greener. When I was at Carrier Manufacturing, we had such an amazing culture that anytime anybody would leave, we would do this little over under on when they're going to ask to come back. Because they were going to go out and find out that what they thought they were going into wasn't the same as the culture that they were in. And they really liked the culture they were in. And it happened. Let me put it this way. Everybody that wanted to come back, we wanted to come back, would do the over and under. If they left and we didn't want them to come back, we wouldn't do it because it didn't matter. But it was a pretty high return rate people would leave, and then they'd be, 6 months later, they're like, "Can I come back? Because is there a job? Can I come back? I really liked working there. I don't really like where I am." Um, and again, if we could accommodate that, we would. But I think that's the important part, is really focus on that. You know, what is it that really really motivates people, right? Because you can't motivate people, right? I can't motivate you, but I can create a climate where you can motivate yourself. Right? We're
Mm-hmm.
all self-motivated, right? I can't make you do anything. Well, I could out of fear, probably, right? I could make you do something out of fear, but that's not going to last very long. But it's really, how do I create that motivational climate where you want to do good work, and you want to be able to work hard and continue to grow, and do all of that. And I think that leaders need to look at themselves as weather people, right? You set the weather, right? If you're bright and sunny, they're bright and sunny. If you're dark and gloomy, it's dark and gloomy, right? I mean, you set the tone, you set the weather in your organization. And you're having a bad day. Well, suck it up, Buttercup. I mean, you got to put a smile on your face, because if you're having a bad day, everybody else is going to feel it, feed off of that and have a bad day as well. And so I think in leadership, those are some of the I think the big responsibilities and burdens that leaders sometimes forget. They just, they forget that everybody's watching them. And
Yeah.
if everybody's watching them, you need to be very, really careful about the messages that you're sending, both verbally and non-verbally, and they need to be consistent. You need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So,
In competing for talent, you had mentioned to me when we were preparing for our conversation
Hmm.
a story about the Lee Company and their 100% covered benefits. So I know we were talking about, salary's one thing, and small, medium-sized businesses can't necessarily compete with that. But if you look across the companies that can compete with the 100% covered benefits, what kind of reactions did you hear from those competitors?
Sure. So it's what you're referencing, Laura, is that we have a very large manufacturer here in Connecticut called the Lee Company. And about a year and a half ago, they announced that they were covering all their employee benefits at 100%. And I got calls from small other manufacturers, small to medium sized manufacturers, saying, "Well, how can I compete with that? And, well, what do I think about it?" I'm like, "Well, good for the Lee Company. I have no idea. I can't, I think that's great. And I think they're doing that so that they can get an advantage on this war on talent as well. And so I think it really starts people questioning about things that they should be doing to be able to make sure that they're taking care of their employees. But I was, the reaction was a little humorous, as if I could do something. Like if I can call the Lee Company and say, "Oh, don't do that. You make it hard for everybody else." I mean, kudos to the Lee Company for knowing that that's going to lead for higher retention rates for them, and all of that. And I think that, listen, we react to external factors all the time. So I think the small to medium sized manufacturers really need to look at that and say, well, if I can't compete at that, what can I compete at, right? Where is my niche? Like, what is it that I can do? And with small manufacturers and medium manufacturers, it really is diversity of work, right? It really is. I mean, you work for a large manufacturer, you're doing the same thing every single day. You work for a small and medium sized manufacturer, you're doing something different every single day. You're learning and you're growing, and it's exciting, and it's a problem solving, troubleshooting type of environment versus, well, here's your machine, make this part, if you have
Mm-hmm.
a problem with your machine, call this person because they come over and fix the machine. You can't fix the machine, and that's the difference. And I think it should spur big companies making decisions like that, should spur smaller companies to say, you know, I just said this. I did this Monday. I do a Monday Minute. When you find things are really hard, don't wish they were easier.
Hmm.
That's not going to happen. Just work on being better, right? So when somebody makes something for you and that just made it harder for you, then you need to be better. And how can you be better? And how can you compete? And what's your angle? And I think, again, I think there's some large flexibility, a lot of flexibility that can be done around pay, around benefits, around time off, around some of those things that smaller companies can be a little bit more flexible with than larger companies.
Is there a learning or a misconception even that you've had about like total compensation, benefits, salary, that you've realized maybe there's a better way to do this, whether that's in your conversations with the manufacturers who are doing it really well, or the ones who come to you and ask for creative solutions to compete because they're just at a loss.
Yeah, I mean, we again in prep for this, I think this is one of those things that we had a conversation about. Is that, I think we move when we look at compensation, we're always in this one size fits all, right? It's you're going to get everybody's going to get the same thing, and when we have such a diverse workforce, I'm not so sure that that makes sense anymore. I mean, it might be more beneficial for me to have a much better medical plan because I have children, for example, where other coworkers might be single and might need less of that, but they like more time off, right? And so I think it's this when you look at total compensation. I think you really need to take a look at now, the direction we're going or we should be going is a flexibility around total compensation. Like, what does that mean to you? And what does that mean to everybody? I mean, I had employees that worked for me that didn't use their vacation time. And they're like, I just didn't want to go on vacation. And I had people that worked for me that would use their vacation time by June, you know, and it would be like, well, obviously there are different things that are important to different people. And they weren't really getting their maximum benefit because, if you don't use it, you lose it type of thing. So
Right.
they weren't getting maximum benefit. And it really kind of led me to like, shouldn't we be just a little bit more flexible in understanding and say, listen, maybe the way to do it is you get $8,000 a year in benefits. How do you want to apply that? It could mean this, column A, column B, column C. Mix that up. Now, that's obviously an administrative nightmare, but there are great companies out there that manage that. So, but I think it really starts to get into that, this is a job for me that was made for me that fits me, and then as you change, it can change as well. And I think that's a great way for companies to look at that. Now, I don't have any firsthand knowledge of any companies that are doing it that way. But to me, that would seem, we're not going to solve today's problems with yesterday's solutions or even today's solutions. We're going to solve them with tomorrow's solutions. That seems like a tomorrow solution to me that says, if more time off is important to you, well, we'll give you more time off and less on you don't need a dental plan or you don't need this, you don't need that. I mean, you have to have catastrophic care. I mean, you have to have that for people, but,
Mhm.
I think I think there's probably a way to be able to do flexible total benefit plans that look at that and say, I mean, again, I've had people who said, I'll take a lower salary if I can get more time off.
Hmm.
You're like, what? I mean, are you kidding me? And, because my generation would be, give me more money, and I don't really
Right.
care about taking time off. I mean, baby boomers are like, work, 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 give me more money, give me more money, more money. But clearly it's people think differently now. And so I think a little bit of flexibility and understanding that is going to change and shape salary and compensation and benefits plans on a going forward basis. Again, solving today's problems with tomorrow's solutions is the direction that we need to take, certainly in the manufacturing industry. And we're learning to become a little bit more flexible than we have been. And that includes around work schedules and things like that. So, yeah.
I'm thinking about, for example, the conversation that you had with Yvonne and the empathy that you extended to her. And maybe it's just something about you and who you are as a leader, where you deeply believe in the benefit that this type of flexibility applied in whatever kind of way for your people makes a lot of sense. But I think and I see and I read a lot of headlines that there are a lot of companies that are not quite there yet. And maybe it's a control thing. Maybe it's because it's the unknown, they haven't tried it yet. So, have you always been this supportive of flexibility, or did you come to learn this over time?
Yeah, no. The answer is no. I mean, I haven't. I said it. The thing I always say about Carey Manufacturing is that the reason why Carey had such a great culture is that there was only one thing that had to change, and that was me. Right? I had to, and again, I come from a very kind of this regimented environment, and I've always had a little bit of flexibility because of working in sales and marketing and kind of those capacities. But I think I think it's my first reaction was how bad I felt for her to have to come to me with this issue, because her first thing out of there was, I hope you will support me. And I could think, how could I not support her? Like, how could put myself in her shoes? If my mother God rest her soul. If my mother called me, it'd be great. But God rest her soul, said to me, I don't think I'm going to see you for 4 years. Can you come and see me before January 20th? How do you say no? How do you say no to that? And then when you go to your boss, do you really need the stress of your boss being a jerk? You don't need that. You just say, okay, I understand. I'm really sorry you're in this situation. Immediately, you can see the angst come off her face.
Yeah.
And then you say, let's see how we can figure this out. And don't worry about the work. The work will be here, right? The work will be here. We'll figure it out. We have a great team. We'll pick the ball up for you, and all of that. Well, I feel real bad. I know this, that. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you feel bad, but that's not the objective here. So I think it's just that, I had to learn that recognize what the other person's going through first. Do that, and then once you do that, you come up with a whole different solution. I'll give you another example. We had this machine operator at Carrier Manufacturing. Production manager works in and says, Chris needs to leave for 3 hours every Tuesday afternoon. I mean, the guy's he runs 5 machines. I'm like, and he's the only person we have. We have another part-time person at night, we're a small shop. So I go over to Chris and I said, Chris, I understand you need to leave every Tuesday at 3. And he goes, yes. And he tells me why. And it was a family issue. Something that he needed to do. And I said, this is really important to you, isn't it? He goes, yes. I go, well, then it's important to me. So you leave, clear conscience. You leave Tuesday, you go take care of what you need to take care of. The only thing I ask is, will you come back and finish your shift? Yes, I'll come back and finish my shift. Now, so once I understood what the reason was, I could clearly empathize with him of what it was. And I could say, wow, I can see how that's really important and how that's providing you with stress. Go do that stress-free. Just come back and finish your work. And then you'd have to tell the guy to go home. Be like, Chris, you got to go home. Like, and he go, no, I got to finish this. And then walk up to him every 4 or 5 days and say, every couple of weeks, because he'd go once a week. How's it going? How's it going? It's going really well. Thank you for asking. In other words, thank you for caring, right? Thank you for caring. Chris, on Saturday, I have this client. He needs a rush job. Can you come in Saturday to do this? Yeah. What time do you want me in? What time do you want me here? I'd be happy to do that for you. And that's hard, right? It's hard to do that, because I could have sat in my office and said, bull, he can't leave. That's just crazy. We're running a manufacturing facility here. What does he think we're running? A daycare center? You can do all this kind of stuff. And it takes a real effort to sit there and go, okay, let me go find out why. And then let me see if I can accommodate that. Man, that is such hard work. That is such hard work.
Yeah.
But boy, I'm telling you, the benefits of doing that work are just significant. And when the guy comes up to you and says, I just want to let you know how much I love working here and how much it feels like a family to me. And this is a guy who, never had a relationship with his father, but yet now his work is a family to him. You realize that, wow, you're really reaching people, and you're reaching them at a whole different level. And that's a whole different level of loyalty.
Yeah.
Now, and if he came to me the next 3 weeks and said, I found a new job, I would ask him about the job. I would be truly interested. And I would say, wow, that sounds like a great opportunity. You should, good luck with that. I mean, inside I'd probably be going, why are you leaving me? I don't know. But, on the
Right.
on the outside, I would still show that, because at the end of the day, you never know, right? You never know. So,
Yeah. It's good to want what's best for people, whether that means here or there, because like you said earlier, you never know if they're going to come back.
yeah, right. Absolutely. Well, yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of coming back, if
Yeah.
we were to meet again in 2030 by that deadline, what story about Connecticut manufacturing would you hope to tell me? Or even about manufacturing as a whole?
Yeah, I have the vision, right? So the vision I have for 2030 is that manufacturing is 20% of the state's GDP. It's currently 12.9. It was 10 2 years ago. We've added $2 billion to the manufacturing sector since then. Connecticut has a very strong economy. We have changed lives through manufacturing. We're fully staffed. We're at full employment, which is about 4,000 open jobs, because somebody always has an open job.
Mm-hmm.
And Connecticut is thriving. Connecticut is thriving. We're continuing to grow. We're continuing to provide people with these life-changing opportunities. And we're changing the trajectory of people's lives through manufacturing jobs, but also playing a central role in the United States as it relates to manufacturing. So that's my vision for 2030, is to have Connecticut be the hub of national manufacturing as it relates certainly to innovation and very sophisticated products as well, but to also have the best workforce in America and to also have one of the strongest economies in America as well.
I was about to ask that piece. And what about the workforce? What about the human side of things?
Yeah, I think the human side will be really, really smart people doing really, really amazing work, and we will continue to uplift, upskill, and reskill people. But we'll also be able to lift people out of poverty by giving them these well-paying manufacturing jobs and introducing them to incredible opportunities for them to participate, to give people hope, right? To give them hope and to find a career where not only can they be doing meaningful work, but they can get paid well to do that, and they can help take care of past and future generations. I mean, we have young kids that are, their grandmother raised them and made sure they went to school every day and made sure that they, stayed as straight as they could stay. And then grandma has food insecurity and housing insecurity. So I have a job in manufacturing. I bought a house and grandma now lives with me. And I'm taking care of her because she took care of me. I hear those stories all the time, and that's what manufacturing careers do. And I think that's where we can have a tremendous social impact, is by going into our cities and giving those young people hope, giving them this opportunity to lift them up, right? Government should not be giving handouts. We should be giving hand-ups, right? We should be extending our hand and lifting people up through the workforce development programs that we have, through the social programs that we have. But the goal is to make them self-sufficient. So, by 2030, I envision this manufacturing ecosystem that is tightly tied into our education system, tightly tied into all of the kids that are out there, building really strong pathways directly into the manufacturing system. Anybody that wants a career in manufacturing will have a career in manufacturing, and the manufacturing industry will just continue to grow because we'll have the most sophisticated and advanced and talented workforce in America.
Well, I really hope that we meet again in 2030, and that's exactly what we cover.
Well, we'll play this back in 2030. So
Right.
I was going to say I don't hope. I was going to say I hope so, but hope's not a strategy. So I don't hope so. That is my vision, and we work every day towards that vision. And my team is amazing, and they all have 100% bought into that vision. And we're doing some, again, we've gone from 10% of the state's GDP to 12.9% in 3 years. We're continuing along that path. We're continuing to see consistent growth in the manufacturing sector. And we're replacing all the people we're losing, which is pretty amazing because, the baby boomers are all getting old and retiring. And we have a very old sector in manufacturing. So the fact that we're keeping pace with jobs, and we've grown, since February 2022, we've grown the manufacturing sector by over 3,000 jobs.
Wow.
Not a great number, but, again, one is good.
Yeah.
So 3,000 is pretty cool. So I think we're doing a lot of the right things. We have a lot of the right people working on it. We have a ton of smart people working in the manufacturing sector. There are hundreds and hundreds in the ecosystem that I get to support on a regular basis. And we're confident that the direction that we've set is the right direction. We have the support that we need, and in 2030, I look forward to celebrating with you, Lauren. All of this. So.
Well, thank you, Paul. I appreciate your time, and I will let you get to your next Cindy scheduled appointment.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lauren. I enjoyed the time. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining us on Getting Personal, brought to you by lifestyle benefits experts at Compt. Remember, you can always find more stories and helpful insights on our LinkedIn and blog.